I also stand on behalf of the LGBT caucus as we talk about Rosa Parks today. And also, as like Dr. Weber, I'm also an educator. And when I would stand in front of my students and talk about significant people, I want to know also about the context of their life. I want to know who they are as that full person. Social workers need to work with people in the full context of their life. So when I think about Rosa Parks, I also think about that young girl who was tied deeply to her faith, who found faith in the AME church and began organizing there. I think about the young girl who had to drop out of school a little bit early because she had to care for her mother and her grandmother during times of illness. And then I think about her having that job and going and working with the NAACP. And on that day, on that bus, she sat behind the line. She sat behind the line that said, "Blacks only." But when more people got on the bus, members, they moved the line. They moved the line before her. And how many of us have been in situations where we think we've achieved where we're supposed to be, and somebody moves the line? And at some point you say, "No, I will not continue to take the back seat when the line is moved after I have done everything appropriate." And then you think about how we celebrate her today, but at that time, because she was a woman, her voice wasn't really heard. When a standing ovation was created when she walked into a room after and she said, "Should I speak?" And the men who were wonderful activists said, "You've said enough." And so after that, she was fired from her job. We don't talk about that. She was fired from her job. We know people now who speak out and face severe retaliation. And nevertheless, she persisted. Her husband was given death threats. So even though she was an icon of the South and the civil rights movement, she had to move north, like a lot of people, where there was more opportunity. And she returned to school at that time, developed a bigger education, and then at that time went to work for an elected official. Reached back to the South to build a network in Detroit. At that time being the first, John Connors, first African-American elected to Congress. And she was his first secretary, even though he had opinions that said women shouldn't be in the workplace. But he knew she was the best secretary around, and so he made that exception. She persisted. She made change. She didn't stop. She had to leave again to care for her mother and her husband. As a lot of women who have become caretakers, caregivers, because when people look around, who's going to care for our seniors, who's going to care for our loved ones? It was also people like Rosa Parks, living everyday lives, doing the right thing every single day. After she was a senior, she was living alone in her own home, and like a woman in the own South Side Stockton, it just occurred in my district. She was assaulted by a young person fooling her into thinking he was trying to help. She was assaulted when she was in her late 70s, living alone independently in Detroit, and at that time then was moved into different kind of housing. So while she did this one great thing that we all remember, let us never forget the full life she lived that is symbolic of the struggles we still face if you are an African American, if you are a woman. All of these things, and then becoming a senior also puts you in another vulnerable situation. So as we continue to stand for Rosa Parks, acknowledge what she did, let us never forget that the struggle continues on all kinds of levels. There's opportunities for us all to be great if we're willing to serve and to live our lives of quiet dignity every single day.